Hey, what is up, mortals? It's Dylan here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 9 of What If Deku Headed the Cakework. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So, we begin. 2 weeks pass as all the students in UA were all hyped up for the upcoming UA Sports Festival. On the morning of the Sports Festival, Class 1A was all riled up and excited. Izuku couldn't help but get excited. Growing up, Izuku had watched a lot of the UA Sports Festivals on TV or on his computer. Even back then, he knew he wanted to come to the school. Izuku wandered around the festival area, seeing all the excited people walking around and visiting food stands before the event started. All the participants had some time before they needed to show up in the stadium, so plenty of them used this time to visit outside the stadium and hopefully meet some pro heroes who came to see the big event. Izuku looked around with a sparkle in his eyes, as he recognized plenty of the pro heroes he admired. He had tons of pages written down in his hero notebook on many of the heroes he saw while walking around. Izuku continued walking around, amazed by all the festivities going on around him. Midoriya got distracted, looking around, and accidentally bumped into someone else, making them drop the stuffed toy they won from one of the festival stands. Oh my! I'm so sorry! Let me help you! Izuku kneels down and picks up the stuffed toy, looks up to see a face he recognized. It's no problem. It's my fault, really. Don't sweat it. Keigo chuckles a bit to lighten the mood for Izuku. Midoriya looked up in shock, staring at the number 3 ranked pro hero, who was standing right in front of him. Hey, you alright? You're just standing there unmoving. Hawks asked Midoriya, who snapped out of his shock upon hearing this, and quickly stood up and handed Keigo the stuffed toy prize. I'm fine, thanks. I just didn't expect to see you here, let alone run into you like this. Izuku nervously explained to Keigo, who was now quietly chuckling. Midoriya, taking notice of this, chuckles worriedly, asks him, did I do something wrong? Sorry about that, kid. You didn't say anything wrong. I just find it funny how nervous people act when meeting me. You are a student, aren't you? Yeah, I'm going to participate in the sports festival starting soon. Izuku clarifies for Hawks. Wonderful. I'll be watching you in the matches. Do your best. Keigo told Izuku while once again chuckling to himself. Izuku couldn't find any words to say, so instead he nodded his head with a smile on his face as he looked forward to the sports festival beginning. Around an hour later, Izuku and all the rest of the students in UA walked into the stadium and changed into their gym uniforms before they all walked out and arrived at the first event of the sports festival. In a booth high up on the stadium, overseeing everything are sat 2 UA teachers, Eraserhead and Present Mike.
All right, everyone! Get ready as the first event of the UA Sports Festival is starting! If you look over to the large screens, you will see all the UA students lining up. Why do you ask? They're lining up for an obstacle course.
The loud Present Mike yelled into the microphone excitedly before getting pushed to the side by Eraserhead, who took over speaking into the microphone. Today, UA students will be putting in extreme effort in outsmarting their fellow classmates, using their quirk thinking to get ahead of the rest. As in any obstacle course, the goal is to reach the end before everyone else. The people who make it there first will be awarded the most points, which will matter in the next round. Aizawa explains to the audience the point of this test, much to their displeasure hearing this low monotone voice. The audience places their attention back into the large monitor in the stadium projecting the students' starting point. All the students stood in one large group, waiting for the test to start. Over the speakers, there is a loud and confident voice speaking up, ready to announce the start of the race.
Students, get ready! Set, go, go, go!
Present Mike screams into the microphone for everyone to hear, causing the people in the stands to yell out in excitement. Many jumping out of their seats, the students all began charging forwards, pushing each other out of the way to try and get ahead. Izuku was still very fit after keeping up with exercising, after cleaning up the beach, and was able to run ahead of many people who didn't have quirks to help with their movement. Izuku watched a few of his classmates speed past him when he saw Bakugo using explosions to propel himself forward. Midoriya chuckled to himself, wishing he could also do that. Midoriya kept running until they reached the first obstacle. It was revealed to everyone's shock to be the giant zero-pointer robots from the original entrance exam. A large majority of the crowd grew scared and worried at the prospect of having to fight or avoid those robots blocking their path, only for the concern to vanish when Shoto Todoroki, at Class 1A, uses his ice quirk and launches a giant glacier, freezing all of the zero-pointer robots in an instant. Many of the students were relieved, but their concern returned when a few of the frozen robots began falling over. Izuku was one of those students that would be affected, so in order to protect himself and others, he ran to the base of the robot that was falling over and touched it with all 5 fingers, causing it to begin decaying from the bottom. Izuku was fortunate enough for a large enough portion of it to go away, for many of the students to be safe. Midoriya continues running past many of the frozen robots, even decaying holes through some of the frozen zero-pointers to create a path through, so he wouldn't need to run around and waste any of his precious time. Before reaching the end of the first obstacle, he picked up a large flat metal piece that had broken off one of the robots and carried it with him, hoping it would come in handy in the future. Izuku and many other students made it past the first obstacle with ease, soon reaching the second obstacle. The students of UA found themselves at a large canyon where they would all need to cross it, using one of the many ropes placed, spanning from one side to the next. This video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN allows you to change your IP address, making it harder to track, and securing your privacy. In addition to providing safe passes through the web, you can also expand the reach of your favorite streaming services like Disney+. If you're from the United States, you won't be able to watch any of the MCU and Sony Spider-Man movies. Bummer. But by switching your location to Japan, you can access them whenever you want. Check out the link in the description to get 3 extra months when you purchase a 12-month subscription plan that costs $99.99 a year. This deal is for a limited time only. Thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. Over towards the final stage of the obstacle course, there is a harsh race towards the finish line between Katsuki Bakugo and Shoto Todoroki, each trying their absolute best to outpace the other. Todoroki, while sliding on his ice path, shoots an ice pillar out of the ground towards the spiky-haired blonde, who narrowly avoids the pillar by using an explosion to push himself away from it. Their race growing more and more competitive, they paid little to no attention to the others in the race, far behind them. Meanwhile, Izuku, who has now gotten to the final third stage, sees all the students trying their best to avoid the mines. It doesn't take long for Midoriya to construct a plan in his mind before he touches his hand down to the ground to begin decaying it. Izuku was muttering, hoping this would work, as his control over what he decays is limited. The ground began to decay in a large hole, removing the dirt in an area revealing plenty of mines. Midoriya, much to the confusion of others passing him, collected all the mines into one spot. He held the large metal robot scrap in front of him before running and jumping onto the mines, using the scrap to shield him as he was launched far into the air with a giant pink dust explosion behind him. Bakugo and Todoroki look back, seeing Izuku flying towards them at high speeds. Bakugo looks at Midoriya and smirks before putting more strain on his muscles, trying to create more explosions in order to not let Izuku catch up. When Izuku comes close to landing on the ground, he lands on the back of Bakugo, bringing them both crashing onto the ground. Izuku immediately gets up and taps the ground, creating a small crater in the ground behind him to try and slow down Todoroki's ice path. Midoriya ran forward as fast as he could to try and reach the end, only for an unexpected surprise for Izuku to see Todoroki reach up to him. In the span of a few seconds, Midoriya throws himself into Todoroki to try and stop him, and they both tumble to the floor. Izuku, already thinking ahead, uses his quirk on the ground and throws Todoroki into a small crater before dashing ahead across the finish line, exhausted and tired. The crowd screamed like wild animals as they witnessed the first student to cross the finish line. Shortly following Izuku was Todoroki, then in third was Bakugo. Izuku teared up a bit at his victory, happy he made it this far. Bakugo walked towards Izuku, and they both high-fived each other, congratulating one another for making it to the end. Meanwhile, over in the stands was a blonde pro-hero, watching on with a smirk on his face. Well, would you look at that? He actually did it. Keigo looks down at the stadium. We have just witnessed the same green-haired boy he spoke to earlier, celebrating his victory with his friend. Looks like Endeavor owes me money after his precious son lost. Hawks laughs while sitting in his seat. Back down at the center of the stadium, Izuku and Bakugo were sat down in a resting area with a TV in the room where they could also watch the remaining students finish the obstacle course. They were both laughing about how the race ended, and continued watching the screen, seeing who else passed. After a few minutes, the door to the resting room opened, and Todoroki walked inside, looking at the two of them curiously. "Hey, Icy Hot! Where'd you give me your own room?" Bakugo asks, sounding quite rude. "Don't say that, Bakugo. He's free to be here if he wants." Izuku argues back against Katsuki's question, for Todoroki speaks up. "Actually, I'm just here to ask a question about the race." Shoto asks coldly to the two of them. "Sure, what is it?" Midoriya asks nonchalantly. "Yeah, spill it," Bakugo says impatiently. "How did you catch up so quickly, Midoriya? I don't recall those explosions being strong enough for a blast that big to occur." Shoto asks Izuku. "Oh, that! I used my quirk to collect a large amount of mines, and used a bunch of them to create a large explosion." Izuku explains simply, getting a nod of understanding from Todoroki. "Huh. Your quirk doesn't decay everything in the area it affects?" Todoroki asks, confused. "Not really. My quirk just decays the substance I touch. It doesn't spread to the other objects or substances," Izuku stated, before giving it a more deeper thought about it. "It would be really dangerous if I could spread what I decay using my quirk. Like, what if it had spread to a person, and it decayed them? Their death would be my fault." Izuku explains with a sorrowful expression. "Well, if you could do that, maybe you could train it, so you can control where and what it spreads to. That way, your quirk could be much more versatile." "That would be great." Izuku thought about it for a second, before hearing an announcement over the speakers.
The first event is officially ended! All students who have passed, make your way to the center of the stadium in preparation for the next event.
All three students stood up and told one another good luck before exiting the resting room and made their way to the stadium for the second event. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in all this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, I'd like to say, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. Our We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in today's excellent content production. Their details can be found in the description below. And lastly, if you are interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend you an invitation to join our team. The only caveat is that we only accept members from 16 years old to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. Be sure to check it out. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching, and have a great day.